So, William Blake, the first Romantic poet or early Romantic poet. Let's look at some information. So, he was born November 28th, 1757, in London, and died in the same city on August 12th, 1827. His life was very, very humble. He began his artistic career at 10 when his father sent him to a drawing school. And he was an apprentice engraver at 14. You should be familiar with this term, engrave and graft. Okay. So he was scratching and working with tools to engrave on wood or on metal. He worked as an engraver for his whole life, and he was a professional artist, but he was very poor, especially later in life. So he had a very, very humble life. He always deemed himself, though, rich in spirit. These are some of his illustrations. As you can see, they have mythological and religious themes, and they are very, very important, as you will see later. His life is considered simple or boring when compared to the lives of his contemporaries, like other Romantic poets like Coleridge, Shelley, or Keats, who traveled a lot and had exciting lives. He was married to the same woman most of his life, never traveled. And his wife assisted him with printing and coloring his paintings. His poetry received little attention during his lifetime. Most of his poetry was not published. And when it was, people thought he was crazy. And his work was weird and strange and confused. But only afterwards, he was recognized as a great pre-Romantic poet, as it often happens. This is one of his quotations that I really like, and it says, "I must create a system or be enslaved by another man's system," obviously. So he was really a searcher of introspection, a searcher of a system, a way of writing. And he found this in the connection between writing and drawing. Okay, his lifetime work. Basically, he illustrated most of his poems as well as those of other writers, and printed most of his poetry himself. And he created his own kind of art, which emphasized the power of imagination. So he linked words with images. And this is the so-called illuminated printing, which is a combination of picture and poetic text. Very, very important. And yes, I have some examples here of some of his poems, which he illustrated himself. Here you go. These are some of them. And is Blake romantic? Well, this question has been debated a lot. And one of his quotes is, "If we see with our imaginations, we see the infinite. If we see with our reason, we only see ourselves." And here you can see the revolutionary thought that he had. We have the opposition between reason and imagination, which is Romanticism versus the Enlightenment. He believed that everything in life was a symbol with a mystical or spiritual meaning. If you have studied the Romanticism throughout other literatures like German or French literature, you know that the symbol and the mystic are key concepts of this period. Another very important concept of the Romantic period is that his poems spoke out against social injustice. Imagine the period we live in: American Revolution, French Revolution, Industrial Revolution, alienation in factories. Okay, his poems were against the injustice. And they also struggle with the big spiritual questions. They are illuminated printings. You have seen the images. They are sort of religious and spiritual and symbolic images. Why is there evil? Why do evil people prosper? Why do innocents suffer? And he goes against the concept of single vision, which is looking at one side of things, or looking at the empirical way of things, like the Newtonian view. Okay, scientific revolution, Isaac Newton, scientific method. This is single vision. This is the concept of the Enlightenment, but it's not the concept that Blake wants. This is not sufficient. A man has to be able to explore imagination, explore the infinite, go outside the realm of reason. His most famous work is Songs of Innocence and Songs of Experience. It has a subtitle, The Contrary States of the Human Soul. So it's a collection of poems divided into two parts, Songs of Innocence and Songs of Experience. And here you can already see where he is going. Innocence, love, trust, unquestioned belief in God. This is written before the French Revolution, when his liberal ideas were high, and he had a lot of confidence in humankind, okay, in the power of men to raise even above reason. And innocence, we often link innocence with childhood, and in this part of his poems, the protagonists of his poems are children. In the second part, Songs of Experience, experience comes from learning, comes from understanding, and they talk about disillusion with human nature and society. And these appeared during the period of terror, which is towards the end of the 18th century. And he questions himself, and he questions the themes of the previous collection. He goes against, not against innocence, but he looks at innocence in another way through experience. It's more pessimistic. One very representative poem in the Songs of Experience collection is London. And here it is.